In this video, I'm going to have a deeper dive into Giga from Vault Comics. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Comics, Gaming, Figures. My name is Phil. This video, I'm going to be taking a closer look at Giga. It's a new #1 from Vault Comics. Yeah, it has been out a few weeks, but it's still available at the minute, and I just want to talk you through it so you could decide if it's something you want to pick up and try and jump on to issue 2 as well. I will try and keep this spoiler free up to a point, and then I'll give you all the spoilers as I've done on my other videos. This book, if I'll be honest, it wasn't kind of what I thought it was going to be when I read the synopsis. I thought it was going to be mech and battles, and there are mechs in it, but it's not, there's no big battles in it, so but we'll just talk through it anyway. So I'll just read the description of this. Nobody knows why the skyscraper-sized mechs, known as Giga, fought their bitter, centuries-long war. All they know is that when the fighting finally stopped, dormant Giga became humanity's new habitat and new gods in one. When disgraced engineer Evan Calhoun finds an apparent murdered Giga, his society and the fantastic tech-centered religious order that controls it are rapidly thrown into chaos. So it starts off with a flashback or something that happened years before. There's a group of teenagers, a group of youngsters, and they're being laid around by a clergyman, priest, minister, pastor kind of guy. You know, he's got the white cloak and the red kind of cape looking thing, and he's elderly looking. And he's talking about the Book of Assembly. So it's very much a religious cult of some sort, or aren't they all? But basically he's going through the back, and there's a guy called Evan who is the main character of the book, and he asks him his theory as to why the Gigas let us make homes inside of them. So they're all living inside these mechs, and the Gigas, I call them mechs, and they have temples to worship them in, and he offers a solution or a theory, basically saying that he thinks they're there to kind of help. You know, there's no immune system, no digestion within these mechs. The gods built the Giga to fight their battles for them. We remove their waste, we replace their corroded parts, we keep them free of vermin. So basically implying that we're there to service them, even though they're lying dormant. So then the priest boyo asks the whereabouts of his pal. He doesn't know, basically implying you guys are always together. Where is she? And then there's a big explosion, and you can see a few bodies lying about, and it's just completely unexplained what's happened here. Then it goes into some sort of verses, like I say, the Book of Assembly 6:13, you know, similar to the Bible. And then it cuts to 13 years later, and you see Ethan, and he appears to be a bit of a dropout. He's dropped out of that cult, that religious cult, and he's now making it out on his own. He looks a bit worn, beat up. He is in a wheelchair as well, so things are probably more difficult for him. And he goes back to his home, and he's living within a mech, but it's not a well-maintained mech like you would expect a religious organization to maintain their buildings. So while he's there, his pal Mason, who's still very much involved, comes to visit him, and he's very nervously almost trying to get rid of him. He doesn't really want him to be there. He likes Mason, but he just, you know, he's maybe hiding something, and he wants him to kind of get to the point of why he's here. And this is where Mason says, come back into the fold. So what Ethan was hiding, try to keep it spoiler free, but it's relevant, is once Mason leaves, that this droid falls from the ceiling who was hiding, and it's a droid that Ethan seems to have manufactured and maintains, and he calls her Laurel. And she's leaking some sort of ooze, some sort of fluid. She's obviously fearful that she's faulty, and Ethan has a look at her, and he knows he needs parts to fix her up. And then it cuts to another scene where a robot of some sort, or a person operating a suit of some sort, brings a victim to like a first aid tent. They are saying they can't do anything for them. They don't have the tech to fix them. And that's completely unexplained. So we don't know how that goes. And it ends with Ethan and Laurel making a trip to basically just to try and find some parts to fix Laurel, and there's potential that there may be an ambush waiting for him. But yeah, that's the book. As spoiler free and as little detail as possible. And this would be the part in the video where I would say yay or nay, if I'm being honest. I didn't enjoy this. I don't know if it's because the initial disappointment, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of unexplained detail that I don't even know if I want to bother pick up the second issue to find out. The whole religious cult thing, I'm not one bit interested. So if this is where I say yay or nay as a new reader with this spoiler-free section, I would say it would be a no. I'm not picking up the second issue of this. And if I'm being honest, I haven't heard many people talk about this. So I don't know if it's considered a book that I would race out to buy. But like I say, you might have liked that kind of thing, and who knows. So I'll try and talk through the spoiler-full stuff of this book. I don't have that much enthusiasm for this book. Like I say, I'm not picking up number 2. I wasn't overly fussed on it. But I'll talk through it. As I mentioned before, they're getting a tour through a mech or a Giga. And Ethan makes his kind of theory that he believes they're there to service them. We remove their waste. We replace their corroded parts. We keep them free of vermin. So we're there as microbial helpers. And the priest boyo, who I can't find his name, I don't think he gives it, comments back to say, let me see if I have this right. You're saying that the gods put up with us because we keep them regular. So then, like I say, the priest is asking where Ethan's friend Aiko, or Aiko is. A-I-K-O, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And she's not about, and asking Ethan where he's at because they're always together. Then there's that big explosion, and the clergyman, he's gone. There's dead bodies lying about. It's completely unexplained. We don't know what happens, and I mean, I can guess there's some sort of rebellion, some sort of revolt against the order. Then it cuts to 13 years later. We find Mayra, and she is just walking through the woods, walking through the forest, and she sees a wheelchair falling over and a body, which is Ethan, lying in a puddle. A few bumps and bruises. He's clearly got a bit of a kicking. Does he get robbed? And I should say that Ethan is an amputee. He's had both lower limbs removed. It, again, doesn't really explain it. And he had that in the first book, so it wasn't to do with that explosion. He refers to having to make quota. Again, doesn't really explain who to, and who's he had to bring his stuff back to. I'm assuming his workplace, but doesn't really elaborate on that. And then he just goes back home to his Giga. I mentioned before, his Giga's falling apart. It's dark, it's dingy, it's grim looking. They refer to another gang who must do the robbing, must take their stuff, and Again, doesn't really explain it. You don't see them. And then they go back home. And that's where Ethan enters into his dorm, and you can't tell what kind of place he lives in. It's a dire place, because there's a guy in the hallway when he comes in, and he says, "Hey Ethan, can I come in and suck your it's cold out here." In other words, this guy needs help, he needs money. Can I perform sexual favors for you to let me in? He doesn't accept that offer. So Ethan goes into his apartment and he says, "Sorry, I'm late." And that's where Mason's waiting on him. And he's saying, "Are you expecting company?" He's looking around. And this is where Mason tries to basically talk him into coming back to the order. But Ethan was essentially kicked out of the order because of his apparent behaviour and his apparent involvement in that explosion. And then, you know, Mason's trying to ask him, come back into the fold, not all the way back, but, and that's it. You see a liquid falling from the ceiling on the back of Mason's shirt. Doesn't touch Mason himself, but on the shirt. And then Mason and Ethan say goodbyes and Mason leaves. And as soon as he does, Laurel, the droid, pops down from the ceiling. And I said before, she's leaking this kind of ooze, this kind of material that doesn't really explain what it is. And Laurel makes reference to a squirrel came to visit me today. And I wanted to give it a name, but I couldn't think of any good ones I like to use. She tried to feed this squirrel, and then it cuts to a picture of Ethan looking out the window on his windowsill or ledge, and you see a dead squirrel. And that's where Ethan says, "Hey Laurel, can I get another look inside your parental chamber real quick?" Whatever. And he just wants to monitor because there's obviously some issues with her. And she gives him permission to look. The best thing about the book probably is the relationship between Ethan and Laurel. It's quite sweet. Laurel obviously depends on him. She's a droid, has her own mind as such. Ethan obviously takes care and replaces any parts needed, but she was loyal to him. Like I say, she was hiding in him. She could have just done her own thing, whatever, but like I say, it's quite a sweet relationship. And yeah. So Ethan opens up her helmet and there's all these parts that are completely corroded. I'll just show you. It's all corroded. Things are starting to spark and smoke. And Ethan has said that he needs to run an errand in the forest. And it cuts to Mason. He's walking back out of the town or out of the Giga that they're all living in, and he almost looks amazed at how much of a, you know, squalor this place really is. There's old men. There's a part where an old man propositions a woman. "Come on, sweet thing, you know I got bad knees. How about we just go right here?" And it just kind of highlighting just how much of a crappy place this is. And Mason's in complete disbelief. Like, why his pal Ethan would want to live here. And then this is the scene that they could have maybe elaborated on more, could have expanded. Some sort of armored camp, and you see this kind of robot or person, a woman operating like a mech suit, carrying an injured individual, and they go to the first aid tent, and he's cut and he's bleeding. And basically things don't look good for him. They all have these kind of, I don't know what you call them, like sashes or something around their shoulders. Jane doesn't really explain that. They basically say that there's nothing they can do for the guy who's injured. They don't have the tech available to fix him. And the one part that kind of alludes to something like an older being is the nurse says, "You know I was against you people being here from the start, but this is..." She's angry. "Tell that guru of yours that patching you maniacs up is not part of our deal." So who is this guy? That's the only part of intrigue I got from this book. Then it cuts to Evan and Laurel climbing up, or Laurel's climbing with Evan clinging onto her back, climbing up the side of a Mac, an abandoned Mac Giga. They reach the top and he's obviously looking for some parts. And Laurel's basically, they're out of the city now, they're in kind of the woods and the forest. And Laurel makes a good point that how strange it is not to have to hide. She's out in the open. She's not hiding on Ethan's roof and ceiling. And she asks, are you here to fix my brain? And Ethan says, I could scavenge for another 30 years and never find this many heat-shielded processing units in one place. I've said Ethan this entire video. Evan, apparently. I don't know why I said Ethan. I'm not gonna go back to record this. If you watch at this point, anything I said Ethan is Evan. So Evan, he shuffles along trying to find some parts, and there looks to be around the corner an ambush. There's 5 individuals with guns and weapons and some sort of tanks on their shoulders. So don't know who they are, no idea, doesn't say. And that's it, that's that book. Mentioned earlier, I'm not picking this number 2 up. It may develop better. Who are this order really? Who's this guru guy? What's going to happen with Evan and Laurel? There's some intrigue there, but to be honest, there's not enough to keep me on to this. The artwork was fine, nothing groundbreaking again. The book is written by folk who I don't know. The writer is Alex Packnadell. Artist is John Lee. Colorist is Roche. And letterer, I'm not going to pronounce it, but. So in terms of creative teams, they're not anyone I've ever heard of. I didn't add this to my pull list at the start. I went into the store and I heard some rumblings about it at the start. It's probably a low print run and people were keen to get it up. But it's nothing, it's nothing for me that I'm gonna keep on. The description that I read, it does sound good. It sounds like something that I'd be intrigued by and I'd want to read, but just kind of the execution for me wasn't good. So, sorry to be doom and gloom about this book. This is the first book that I probably wouldn't recommend now. First book I reviewed that I wouldn't recommend to anybody. I wouldn't waste my money unless you really like Macs and religious orders and something. But for me it wasn't good. Not getting number 2, no interest. That's Giga, my fault. It's a shame. So please, if you like this video, click like. Please comment below what you thought of my ramblings. Let me know if you disagree with what I've said. Maybe you did like it and you want to defend the corner. Let me know. Please subscribe and please follow me on Instagram, which is noted below. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.